Today's episode of Macabre'Gorium Labs is brought to you by some weird stuff we found outside and put it in a can. The year was 1959, and it was time for the girls of the world to get something new of their very own. And this is where a woman named Ruth Handler would introduce the world to a brand new toy. This toy would, in fact, change the world forever. Finally, girls of the world could live out their fantasies and dream jobs, drive fancy cars. Nuts to that! We know why you're here. Let's try that again. What do you do when you have a blockbuster B movie based on hideously deformed creatures of superhuman size and strength? Well, remove the violence, remove the gore, remove the add 1000% cheesy, corny, awesome throw in some cohorts, and you make a zany cartoon about hideously deformed creatures of superhuman size and strength, because this ain't no Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, awesome as they are. This ain't no magic school bus, and this certainly ain't no Captain Planet and the Planeteers. This is the history of the most badass deformed creatures of superhuman size and strength ever, aside from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course. Hey everybody, what's up, and welcome back to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents a showcase of things likely forgotten. Bats here, and I hope you'll join me for today's topic as we take a look at Toxic Crusaders, the animated series. Hideously deformed creatures of superhuman size and strength. That's probably the longest title for any one of our videos.
Toxic Crusaders, Toxic Crusaders. I had no friends, no girls that hugged me till I got radioactive ugly.
For today's video, we're only going to really be focusing on the 1990 animated series and some of its affiliated merchandise, but we'll probably cover all of it either here or over on After Dark down the line. Originally airing during 1990, the Toxic Crusaders was an animated series based on the more mature movie series, The Toxic Avenger. Both were made by none other than Lloyd Kaufman and his crew over at Troma team. How or why this series came to be was due to the hype of the era where movie companies were trying to market more mature properties to a younger audience. And Toxie wasn't alone in this endeavor. In fact, during this time we also had animated series based on things like RoboCop, Rambo, Swamp Thing, Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters, and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, just to name a few. However, some of these pale into comparison to the original Toxic Avenger. Not all of them. See, what set the Toxic Avenger apart from the other properties was the over-the-top acting, overly aggressive violence, and fun, insane storylines. Not to mention the way the actors were able to bring the characters to life in a wacky dystopian world where it's considered a good day when you get to keep your head on your shoulders.
Now, Bats, this episode is about the cartoon. Stay on track and save it for the Macabre'Gorium After Dark episode.
I know, Goat, but I should mention that we'll be covering a lot of the Troma movies right here on the channel. But you're absolutely right. Let's stay on track and get back to the topic. Let's talk about the cartoon. This show somewhat followed the movie fairly as well as the creation of Toxie, minus a lot of the more mature stuff, and we'll discuss that more in just a moment. This show would also introduce a lot of new characters and storylines that differ greatly from the movies. Toxie was made to be more sensitive and articulate than his movie counterpart. On a side note, each episode of the show that we watched had an introduction by the man himself, Lloyd Kaufman. These intros were not in the original airing, but were instead added to the DVD remaster for the 30th anniversary. But before we talk about the series, let's talk about the characters, and first up is the man himself, Toxie. Formerly known as Melvin Junko, a janitor at the local gym, he was turned into the title hero after he was tricked into putting on a tutu and then haphazardly fell out a window into toxic waste. And this is where he would become the mighty Toxic Avenger. Toxie would be voiced by the super talented and ever familiar Rodger Bumpass.
Now, some of our fans might know him better from his role as Squidward Tentacles from SpongeBob SquarePants.
Next up, we have Dr. Kill-Em-Off. Kill him off? Kill him off? Kill him off? Also voiced by Rodger Bumpass, Dr. Killamoff is the show's de facto antagonist, acting as the primary villain. Dr. Killamoff is an alien from the planet Smogula that came to Earth in order to disrupt and pollute the environment so that his people can come take over later on. This is because his species can only live in a highly toxic environment. Dr. Killamoff can be seen wearing some sort of suit with massive shoulder pads, he has 4 arms, and a mask with a ventilator that not only helps him exist in our environment, but covers his real form of a bug alien. After a while, his motives in the show shift from environmental detriment to just straight up messing with the Toxic Crusaders, for whatever reason. As is common with these things in our videos, next up is my favorite character, Junkyard. Junkyard, voiced by Greg Berger, is half stray dog and half hobo. This is because he was a dog sleeping in a doghouse in a junkyard and a hobo crawled inside and fell asleep. This is when a sudden electricity storm would zap the doghouse and fuse the two together, creating a man-dog. Not to be confused with Dogman. Next up is Blobby, but I think it's best if I let Mr. Kaufman explain this one on his own. Uncensored version on the Patreon.
That's Blobby, man. That's Blobby, Toxie's pet. You know how we made Blobby for the movie? We took my we made a cast of my and we got Blobby. It did pull off my It was very painful.
So, as it turns out, Blobby is Lloyd Kaufman's
wow.
Yeah. I think we better move on. Next up is Yvonne. Did that rhyme? Voiced by the legendary Kath Soucie and based on the blind love interest Sarah from the movies, Yvonne is not blind, but in this series is very often nearsighted. She still acts as Toxie's girlfriend, and she wears cat-eye glasses, sings, and plays the accordion.
A real decision maker when I see him, I drool like a puppy. Well, Toxie, what do you think?
Well, she tries hard, right? Next up is Bonehead. Based on Bozo, the main antagonist from the original movie, The Toxic Avenger, Bonehead was voiced by Michael J. Pollard, and in the series would also be partially responsible for the creation of Toxie. He kind of looks like a zombie punk and is one of Killamoff's henchmen. Psycho is up next, but I'm sure you already knew that.
I see what you did there.
This is another character that they would create just for the cartoon. He's also the bad guy's best but ignored chance to achieve their goals. Psycho is a heavy-set, half-machine creature that was one of Killamoff's goons. This character was voiced by Michael J. Pollard and gets his name from having the ability to predict the future. A trope that takes place in every episode of the show is he always points out how Dr. Killamoff's plans are going to fail. In detail, kind of like how I can predict something totally rad is about to happen.
And now, these messages.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Yeah? Are you tired of being pushed around? Yeah. You tired of everybody thinking you're a doofus? Hey. Tired of not getting the girl? Or the guy? You know. Ever wished you were a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength? Well then, get yourself some weird stuff we found outside and put it in a can. We have no idea what it's made out of. It's a mystery. Drink it. You know you want to. Come on, do it. But it's open. Of course it is. We just scooped it up and put it in an old can we found. What did you think? We'd have it professionally bottled? Hey, here's an idea. Stop whining and drink it. Glug, glug, glug. Oh my god, I can't believe he's drinking it. Results may vary. Get yourself some weird stuff we found outside and put it in a can today. Macabre'Gorium Labs does not recommend drinking toxic waste. This is probably not good for you. There is no guarantee it will give you superpowers, or turn you into a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength. Do not take life advice from parody sketches in the middle of history videos you found on YouTube, as I will now demonstrate. Glug, glug, glug.
Hey, where'd he go? Check your local listings, I guess?
We now return to the Toxic Crusaders.
Alright, so next up, Mrs. Junko. Mrs. Junko, voiced by Susan Silo, is Toxie's mom. She is really supportive of her little boy and loves him to pieces. Mrs. Junko is a mom, and she looks like a 1970s, 1980s mom, although Susan Silo did use a Jewish accent in order to bring the character to life. You know, coming up with that last line kinda gave me a headache.
You good?
Yeah, I just thought, what if that line's a little offensive? But then I thought, well, history isn't always appropriate or subtle, so who gives a shit? The show was awesome.
But I thought you said you had a headache.
Yeah, well, I guess it was more of a headbanger.
Wow, really?
Yep, and Headbanger is up next. This character is basically a 2-for-1 deal because he's actually two dudes in one and they have opposite personalities. On one hand, you have Dr. Bender, a mad scientist that ordered a pizza, and on the other hand, you have Fender, a quintessential 1980s surfer-style dude, who also happens to be a pizza delivery guy. And through a mishap in Bender's lab, they get fused together as a two-headed creature. When the character is first introduced, he would be seen working for Dr. Kill-Em-Off, but after discovering that the perks were better, they went to work for the good guys.
I knew we should have been a good guy. The bad guys never get the checks.
Wussies. Next up, nosing along, is No-Zone. No-Zone, voiced by Paul Eiding and named for not the way he looks, but how he was mutated. Lore says that he was a pilot that flew through a hole in the ozone and crash-landed in a pepper surplus. This is where he turned blue, his nose became enlarged, his leg turned into a wheeled peg leg, and he gained the ability to super sneeze. That's kind of a stinky superpower. Critics. Next up is Mayor Max Grody. Based off Mayor Belgoody from the live-action movie, Mayor Grody is voiced by Chuck McCann and is pretty much the same as he was in the movie. He's sleazy, dirty, mean, and in the pocket of Dr. Kill-Em-Off. Heading into the final stretch, we have Tsar Zosta. As the real master of all the evil plots that are attempted by Kill-Em-Off, we have Tsar Zosta. The original ruler of planet Smogula, Tsar Zosta is responsible for Kill-Em-Off being on Earth and his current mission. This character resembles a short bug alien and is voiced by Patrick Zimmerman. Well, that was a lot of characters, and there were a lot more, but fortunately they all only need one entry, because next up is the Radiation Rangers. There isn't too much to say about these characters, other than they're basically basic, generic soldiers, not unlike the Ninja Turtles Foot Clan. They come in droves, they're expendable, and have vast numbers. They're the primary henchmen to Dr. Kill-Em-Off. These red shirts in yellow radiation suits can be identified by their yellow radiation suits with full gas masks and up to no good demeanor. But now that we know about these hideously deformed creatures of superhuman size and strength, let's take a look at what the show was actually about with episode 1. But first, let's talk about the intro that preceded every one of the episodes we watched. Each episode's opener features Mr. Kaufman sitting in his office and explaining that the show should have gone into syndication and expressing his disappointment. It quickly becomes pretty clear that he does not care for the Hollywood executives. It is noteworthy that the video intro is the same for each episode, at least the ones we watched. After the not unfounded rant is over, we are introduced to the bad theme song. The first episode of this show is called The Making of Toxie. Now, I'm only really going to go into super detail for the first episode because this series is best left experienced on your own. No spoilers. Okay, a lot of spoilers. Episode 1, The Making of Toxie. After the scene is set, we are introduced to Dr. Kill-Em-Off, who makes it clear that he loves the city because of its high levels of pollution. Along with this revelation, we are also introduced to a chemical called Grossolium-90. It is also soon revealed that Grossolium-90 is, quote, the most deadliest toxic substance in the world. So naturally, Dr. Kill-Em-Off decided to dump this waste in the town of Tromaville, the cleanest town on Earth. Not for long. Here is where we get a little foreshadowing in the typical Troma style. Soon after this, we're introduced to Melvin, Bonehead, and Bimbette. This is where Bonehead and Bimbette decide to mess with Melvin, so they set their diabolical plan into action. It's pretty obvious that these two are up to no good, tricking Melvin into going on a faux date with Bimbette, only she asks him to wear a tutu on their, fake date. Man, Melvin's a frickin' dork. For now. So Melvin dons the tutu and goes to meet Bimbette on their date. Only, unbeknownst to the cast of this cartoon, the villains are on their way to dispense the toxic crud to Tromaville. So after going to meet Bimbette, a series of mishaps take place and Melvin is whisked into the swimming pool. Embarrassed, he runs away out the door and falls right into the barrels of toxic sludge. Now the transformation begins. First, Melvin is turned into a school teacher, then a movie producer, and finally, a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength. And just like that, Toxie would be born. Also at this time, Bonehead is knocked into toxic waste himself and transformed into a monster. Shortly after his transformation, Toxie goes to live at the toxic waste dump where we are introduced to a few new characters, including Blobby and Yvonne. Some less than pleasant hijinks ensue, and we soon discover that Toxie has a super sense for when accordions are in danger. Anybody else think Weird Al should hire this guy? And after some light character discovery, it's time for heroics. At this point, Dr. Killamoff and his goons go to pollute Tromaville in an effort to turn the world toxic. Due to his species being from another planet where they breathe toxins and revealing his plan to pollute Earth so his kind can take over. After some battle-esque goofiness, we get two more members of the crew with No Zone and Major Disaster. They defeat Dr. Killamoff and his goons, and later on, back at the junkyard, they decide to become a team of do-gooders, and thus the name the Toxic Crusaders is born. And with this, the episode ends. Episode 2, This Spud's for You. This episode starts off with the Crusaders looking for jobs in order to pay the bills. We get introduced to the 2-for-1 character, Headbanger, a combination of Dr. Bender and singing delivery dude, Fender. On the other half of this story, this episode would see Killamoff use toxic chemicals to contaminate the potato crops in order to mutate the population into senile old people. That's pretty evil. Episode 3, Club Fred. In this episode, Killamoff's plan this time is that he needs a place for his fellow invaders to land their ship, and so of course he chooses a retirement home as the perfect site. In order to throw the Crusaders off the trail, they decide to stage a fake Club Fred so they can fulfill their evil deeds of throwing the old people out on the street. This would also be the episode that would introduce my favorite character, Junkyard. Episode 4, The Pollution Solution. Killamoff sends his troops to get rid of the Toxic Crusaders from the toxic waste dump. He then pretends to be a good guy and pledges to get rid of pollution via a recycling plant. Only it does not recycle trash into anything other than smog. Episode 5, Tree Troubles. Major Disaster falls in love with a tree surgeon, and Dr. Killamoff decides to sell one of his homeworld items called Smog in a Can, and this stuff mutates trees to make them produce smog instead of helping get rid of it. Episode 6, A Sight for Sore Eyes. Mayor Grody hires the Crusaders to be city officials because Killamoff discovers a supply of toxins over the dump. The new jobs will force them to move, although they move to the penthouse where the mayor lives, allowing Killamoff to build a giant pump to collect the smog. Episode 7, Mr. Earth, Superhero. This is the first episode to take place during the holidays. Killamoff wants to destroy the local shopping center to halt holiday shopping so that people will have to buy his pollution-creating can openers. Yes, pollution-creating can openers. We get introduced to this episode's guest, Mr. Earth, a bumbling, misunderstood, clumsy, overpowered superhero. Episode 8, Invasion of the Biddy Snatchers. In this one, it's Mother's Day in Tromaville, and it's under attack by alien invaders that plan on replacing the town's old ladies. Or biddies. With 4 armed clones, this would cause them all to become incessant nags. Meanwhile, Killamoff is replaced due to his incompetence. Episode 9, Toxie Ties the Knot. In this episode, Sarzosta's daughter, Princess Gerba, comes to Earth and falls in love with Toxie, insisting that he marry her, so Dr. Killamoff has to arrange the wedding. Meanwhile, Mayor Grody plans to stop the wedding and marry Gerpa himself so he can be son-in-law to Sarzosta. Episode 10, The Snail Must Go Through. In this one, Dr. Killamoff plans to pollute the town with the styrofoam stuff your VCR comes packed in that you can never figure out how to get rid of. No, really, this is his actual plan. Check it out.
We have developed a method of manufacturing that annoying plastic foam stuff that your VCR is packed in that you can never figure out how to get rid of. And we plan to pollute all of Tromaville with it.
There is also a new superhero in town called Snail Man. He was created when a race car driver drove over a banana peel, drove off the Tromaville Bridge, and onto a barge full of snails, where the engine oil from his car combined with the snails was mutated. How I love you, Lloyd Kaufman. Episode 11, Nab That Toxic Cab. Mayor Grody opens a stink bomb factory right next door to an old people's home. After shutting it down, Junkyard digs up an old car that Toxie and crew hobble together as the Toxic Cab. They do this in order to start a free taxi service to help the townspeople get around. It's worth noting that this particular taxi cab is somewhat sentient, but let's move on. Episode 12, Still Crazy After All These Shears. Major Grody's latest scheme sees him starting a gardening event where everyone will plant seeds to better the environment. However, these seeds are anything but helpful. In fact, they're a kind of super invasive plant that will grow out of control until it destroys the town. This episode introduces another one-off character, Mower Man. Moving on to the last of the episodes, we have Episode 13, That's No Villain, That's My Mom. In the final episode, we find out that the mayor has basically forced Toxie's mom into working for him in order to afford rent. And the plot of this one sees the villains attempt to use balloons to spread toxic gas around town while the Avengers, Toxic Crusaders, are busy with a convention for hideously deformed creatures of superhuman size and strength. The series would meet an untimely end in 1991 when Network Slugs decided not to renew it for a second season, citing that the reason was the marketing being oversaturated with similar properties, and they also cite the fact that the products the show was selling were not cheap to make. There is a Toxic Crusaders animated movie, but it's really more like an abridged version of the TV show, and it's completely disjointed and not put together well. However, there was actually a ton of merchandise for this one, like the Toxic Crusaders action figures, the Toxic Crusaders comic books, the Toxic Crusaders trading cards, Halloween costumes, the Toxic Crusaders board game. There may have been more than one of those. The Toxic Crusaders Panini sticker book set, the Toxic Crusaders video games, the Toxic Crusaders clothes, and a bunch more. I would love to cover all of this merchandise in future videos, and...
Bats, I know you love this subject, but we really need to wrap this up.
Yeah, I know, Goats, but I've got plans. In fact, some of these will be in the next batch of videos that I personally write. But you're right, Goats, we should get back to the topic at hand. This was about the animated series. As of 2026, you can find the complete series in various places and even coming out with a new movie rebooted by Troma themselves. They have new action figures and a new game supposedly coming out of the summer of this year. Although personally, I've been waiting a while. Hey, you guys making the Troma game, if you wanted to send me a review pass, I would absolutely do that for you. I'm waiting on this one. I'm excited for your game. And I, for one, cannot wait to see where it goes. You can also find a ton of Toxic Crusaders merch online and pretty much everywhere, from vintage to new. There is something out there for pretty much any fan of Toxies. This series was awesome. It had engaging, goofy, fun characters, and the good times never seemed to end when you could catch the show on TV. Because I remember watching this one when I was younger, but it never seemed to come on often, and on top of that, it seemed to fade away just as fast as it faded in. It's a damn shame. But now, as of 2026, I'm glad they actually revived ways that people of newer generations can get to enjoy this awesome property. This show will always have kind of a goofy influence on my artistic style. This show and the property itself will always hold a special spot in my heart, but now you know what I think? I've just gotta ask. Did you watch the Toxic Crusaders? If so, what was your favorite episode or character? If not, what was your favorite childhood show, toy, snack, movie, or other memory? Did we forget anything, get something wrong, or leave something out? Do you have a suggestion for a future video, or maybe you just want to drop in and say hi? Either way, feel free to head on down to our comment section, because most of the time, we do look forward to hearing from you. So share your memories and drop in. And with that, unfortunately, we've come to the end of another Macabre'Gorium Labs showcase of things likely forgotten. I've been your host, Bats, and I hope you had a good time today as we took a look at another one of my favorite topics with the Toxic Crusaders, hideously deformed creatures of superhuman size and strength. Be sure to check back next time because you never know what we have in store, and as usual, think for yourselves, be excellent to each other, and above all, keep it creepy. We'll see you in the next one. Hey, Goat, I think that's probably the longest title for any one of our videos ever. Find all of our unedited content and bonus stuff that you won't find here on YouTube over on the Macabre'Gorium Labs Patreon, link in the description. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Hope you had a good time, hope we're doing better, hope you're enjoying what we're doing. Big shout out to our patrons, Manic Goats, Corey Backus, Woodstock, Boss Mike, Viking Woman, Bill, Matt H, and Joshua R. You guys are freaking rad. We'll see you in the next one. Check out one of these other videos linked here at the Zen card. Keep it creepy.